She stood just inside the glass doors of the roadside diner, clutching a thin plastic bag like it was the only thing holding her together. Her shoulders hunched not from the cold but from weeks of humiliation she had learned to swallow in silence. Her name was Maria, a mother of two, and for the third night in a row she hadn't eaten so her children could have a little more. The smell of frying meat and fresh bread made her stomach twist painfully, but she didn't come for herself, she never did. She came because her children were waiting in the car parked 2 blocks away, wrapped in a blanket, pretending they weren't hungry. Pretending everything was fine, Maria took a breath, rehearsing the words in her head like a prayer. Just leftovers. Anything you were going to throw away, she told herself. That was all she would ask, nothing more. Nothing that could make someone angry. Yet the moment she stepped forward, the manager noticed her. A tall man with a tight jaw and eyes that scanned people like problems, waiting to happen. His name tag read Rick, and the second his gaze locked onto her worn shoes and trembling hands, his expression hardened. Maria approached the counter slowly, keeping her voice low and respectful, explaining she didn't have money but asking if there was any food left over at the end of the night. Just a little for her kids. She even smiled, that tired, apologetic smile people like her learned to wear. But Rick didn't smile back. He slammed his hand on the counter so hard a customer flinched. His voice rose sharp and humiliating, accusing her of trying to steal, of scaring customers, of always coming back, even though it was the first time she had ever stepped into that place. His words hit her harder than hunger ever could. Heads turned, forks paused midair, and Maria felt her face burn as she tried to explain again, mentioning her children, mentioning that she would leave immediately. But Rick wasn't listening. He grabbed her arm suddenly, his fingers digging into her skin, yanking her toward the door while shouting that he didn't run a charity and that people like her needed to learn their place. The plastic bag fell to the floor, splitting open, revealing nothing inside, because she had brought nothing with her. And that silence, that empty bag, spoke louder than her words ever could outside. Rick shoved her so hard she stumbled onto the pavement. Scraping her palms, the door slammed behind her. Laughter from inside followed. Not everyone laughed, but no one stopped him either. Maria sat there for a moment, stunned, the world spinning, the sound of her children's laughter from earlier echoing cruelly in her head. She wiped her tears quickly because she had learned crying didn't fix anything. She stood up, dusted herself off, and walked back toward the car, rehearsing how she would lie to her kids this time, how she would say the food place was closed, how she would smile and tell them tomorrow would be better. What she didn't see was the group of bikers sitting at a corner table inside the diner, men and women in worn leather jackets, their engines lined up outside like sleeping beasts. They had gone quiet when Rick grabbed her arm, eyes following every second one of them. A broad-shouldered man with gray in his beard, clenched his jaw so tight it ached. Another biker, a woman with a scar across her eyebrow, had already stood up before Rick even pushed Maria out. But the door closed too fast. The diner returned to its noise, but something had changed. A tension hung in the air. The gray-bearded biker slowly placed his money on the table, untouched food in front of him, and said calmly, "We finish eating later." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight outside. Maria reached her car and opened the door. Her children looked up immediately, eyes searching her hands first, then her face. She forced a smile and shook her head gently, saying the place had nothing tonight. Her youngest asked softly if it was okay, and that broke something inside her, because she had no answer left. Just as she was about to close the door, the low rumble of motorcycle engines rolled through the parking lot, one by one, then all together, vibrating the ground beneath her feet. Maria turned slowly, confused, as a line of bikes pulled in, headlights cutting through the darkness. The bikers dismounted with calm precision, not rushing, not angry looking. Just focused. The gray-bearded man caught Maria's eye and gave her a small nod, one that said, "You're not invisible." She didn't understand what was happening, only that something felt different now inside the diner. Rick glanced toward the window and scoffed, muttering about troublemakers and bikers thinking they owned the road. He straightened his shirt and told himself he'd done nothing wrong. After all, he was the manager. He made the rules, but as the door opened again and the bell rang, the sound felt heavier this time. The room fell quiet as the bikers walked back in, boots slow, deliberate, their eyes locked not on the menu, not on the food, but on Rick, who suddenly felt the confidence drain from his chest. The gray-bearded man spoke politely, asking a simple question. Is it store policy to assault hungry mothers? Rick laughed nervously, waving it off, claiming she was a disturbance, a liar, but the woman with the scar stepped forward, placing the torn plastic bag gently on the counter, asking him what exactly had been stolen. Rick's mouth opened, then closed. Customers shifted uncomfortably. One of them whispered that they had seen everything. Sweat formed at Rick's hairline as he tried to regain control, but the bikers weren't yelling, weren't threatening. That scared him more than anger ever could. Outside, Maria sat frozen, unaware that the lie she had told her children was about to be undone in a way she never imagined. Because this wasn't just about food anymore. It was about dignity, and Rick had no idea that the next few minutes would change his life, his job, and the way everyone in that diner would remember this night forever. And if you're feeling this moment, if you believe stories like this matter, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because what happens next in Chapter 2 is where justice arrives in a way no one expects.